Respect the sea and the sky, lest we bring you ruin. A quote from Hymns to the Wind and the Waves. Gozreh, also known as the wind and the waves, god of nature, the sea, and weather. Alignment is neutral, and domains include air, animal, plant, water, and weather. The favored weapon is the trident. Centers of worship include the Mogwai Expanse, Sargava, the Shackles, Sodden Lands, Thuvia, Varisia. His nationality is considered Mongwani.
Gozreh is timeless, born when the first breeze caressed the ocean. She is ever-changing, tempestuous, and unpredictable, yet also prone to periods of constancy, stillness, and routine. He is the storm cloud chased by clear skies, the spring warmth that follows winter, and the fair winds that carry sea-going ships. She is the great wave that capsizes those ships, the gentle current that deposits sailors on safe shores, and the rising and falling tides. Those who ply the waters or rely upon the rains know this better than most, and are sure to placate Gozreh and honor him when the wind and waves are favorable. Gozreh has two aspects, equally depicted in art and sculpture. When at sea or over water, Gozreh is a woman with wild, flowing green hair, whose body transforms into endless waves. In the sky and over land, Gozreh appears as an aged man with a long white beard emerging from mighty storm clouds. Gozreh is moody and brooding, able to spend weeks in a glowering quiet, only to explode in fury of water, wind, and lightning. He is an elemental force, not fettered by the work of mortals. He may turn aside his wrath when appeased with gifts and flattering words, or he may ignore mortal cries entirely. Many cargo ships throw a crate or two overboard in the deep ocean to satisfy her, so that she does not take more by force. He is the amoral side of nature, that which brings life and takes it unexpectedly. Gozreh represents both female and male facets of life, unconstrained by civilization's notion of masculinity and femininity. Grandmother, grandfather, brother, sister, eternal and ever-changing, the wind and the waves echo and shape the countless living things on Golarion. Gozreh refers to himself or herself as I or we interchangeably. He loves to race the wind, tearing clouds in two with his passing, or sculpting them into islands and palaces for his pleasure. She hides under the waves and plummets to the crashing depths of the ocean, chasing whales and building grottos visible only by the light of the glowing creatures that live there. He hates those who defile the sky with smoke, taint the waters with mortal filth, or abuse the bounties of the land and sea. Her official church is small, but her lay worshippers are countless. He particularly likes seabirds, flying fish, and frogs, both as living specimens and as sacrificial offerings. He is known to watch the world through the eyes of beasts, whether on the wing or under the sea, flitting from the body of a solitary bear to the countless beating hearts of a flock of starlings. He senses the day and night through green plants and pale fungi, drinking deeply through the roots of the mighty oak or clinging to the stone as the tiniest moss or lichen. Gozreh's interests lie entirely in the realm of weather and living things. He has little interest in earth except in the form of soil or as a foundation for living works. She cares not for fire, save for how flame and ash provide opportunities for new life to grow in their wake. These materials are not taboo in her faith, just inconsequential. Likewise, he accepts that some creatures must die so that others may survive, and still others be born, but the mystical aspects of death and its cycles do not concern him. He leaves these things to entities such as Pharasma. Like nature itself, Gozreh can be cruel and indifferent, allowing a storm to ravage the land or sink a dozen ships, or a plague to wipe out an entire herd of animals or even whole settlements. Yet she also pushes trading ships across the world, multiplies animals in springtime, and brings gentle rain to thirsty fields. His way is a way beyond morals and ethics. As long as life survives in some form, and water and weather support it and keep the world itself dynamic, Gozreh is satisfied. Though her priests and priestesses may have personal ideas about which creatures should live, which should not, or visions of what Gozreh wants protected or destroyed, they accept that their beliefs are just one facet of their deity's infinite perceptions. The wind and the waves may be intractable one moment and sympathetic the next. He does not do this to be deliberately contrary or mischievous, or in the interest of chaos. It is simply because he perceives everything, every living organism, every drop of water, every gust of wind, at all times. Events distant and unrelated may draw her attention, and the outcome of those events may change her mood, whether because a potential tornado disperses too soon or a rare breed of fox births a dozen healthy kits. He is a great monarch, constantly besieged by courtiers and commoners, listening to each argument simultaneously and shifting his attention and response to each in turn. To one unaware of the concophony, she may appear flighty or distracted, but the truth is far more complicated, in a way that mortals cannot hope to perceive. Gozreh is usually depicted as a colossal humanoid whose other half trails away into a mass of rolling elemental matter. In male form, he appears as a storm cloud and always remains flying. According to one old legend, he can stretch from one horizon to the other, darkening the entire sky with his fury. In female form, Gozreh's body is usually shown blending with the water of a lake or sea. She has been known to rise from a waterspout, but sometimes gathers all the necessary water into a great wave emerging from the top as a nymph-like shape, a crone, or a vaguely humanoid construct of pure water. Statues of Gozreh are usually made of driftwood or lightning-scorched trees, either tied together into a humanoid shape or carved to resemble one or both incarnations. A few are chiseled from ice and either magically preserved or allowed to melt to be recreated as something new. Stone is rarely used for religious imagery and never brick or pottery, as such things are signs of civilization's encroachment. Holy symbols and small idols may be made of coral, polished shell, lacquered wood, whalebone, and other materials that represent life in the sea and the sky that have naturally fallen. Signs of Gozreh's favor include a sudden breeze that carries the scent of flowers, the appearance of large numbers of animals, the unexplained sound of waves crashing on a distant beach, and dreams of a specific, recognizable animal, such as a white wolf, a frilled lizard with glowing blue eyes, or a ghastly raven. Omens of his displeasure include being watched and shrieked at by wild birds or beasts, sudden rainstorms localized over a specific building or individual, or an unending taste of blood in the mouth. She may foul fresh water, or afflict offenders with terrible smells or excruciating joint pain as the weather changes. It's not unusual for zealous priests of Gozreh to remain celibate, devoting all their energy to their deity. These priests have been known to worship their deity naked in high places or shallow waters, a process referred to as becoming sky-clad or sea-clad. Priests have a habit of finding discarded things washed up or left on the shore, including infants orphaned by shipwrecks or abandoned to die from exposure. In most lands, such children are traditionally raised by the church and trained for the priesthood, which offsets the low number of children born to priests because of their high celibacy rate. Gozreh's holy symbol is a green leaf with a drop of water pouring from the lower end. Most of Gozreh's priests are clerics, but about a tenth are druids, with a few rangers, called weather hunters, and adepts taking active roles in the priesthood. Inquisitors are rare. Those who embrace this path seek out folk who pollute water, clear-cut forests, and abuse the natural creatures of the world. Gozreh's worshippers are typically sailors, merchants who ship goods between ports, and farmers. Seagoing raiders ask her to speed them to their prey. Fisherfolk pray for favorable currents to bring them heavy catches. Millers ask for consistent winds to power their mills and well pumps, along with forgiveness for cutting trees. And travelers seek good weather, especially for lengthy journeys. Wise generals ask Gozreh's blessing before transporting soldiers by sea. Wiser ones ask his priests whether a blessing would do any good. Worship services include chanting, playing wind instruments, listening to chimes moved by the wind or water, drinking water, and ritual use of salt, fragrant herbs, and smokeless incense. Farming communities often leave tributes of meat and grain exposed on a high rock to allow the deity's servants to claim it. Fishing communities tow the strung-together bones of their most impressive catches behind their boats, releasing them as offerings to the goddess. Some civilized folk perpetuate stories of Gozrehs engaging in human sacrifice in lean times, often by burning victims encased in wicker effigies or drowning them in tidal pools. But no reliable records of this exist, at least as far as anyone knows. The Church does not have a strong preference for or against marriage, recognizing that some creatures mate for life, while others unite only for a season or until offspring are mature. Priests are very tolerant of non-traditional families, including polyamorous groups and seasonal unions, and individuals interested in such relationships often join the faith because of this tolerance, though this attitude is actually more akin to indifference, as the bonds that humanoids make between their own kind and the relationship roles they choose to play are irrelevant to the forces of nature. Gozreh's many roles and areas of interest spark countless splinter cells. Some embrace the deity's entire area of influence. Others choose one particular aspect, such as weather, or a handful of specific interests, such as birds and wind, or fish in the sea, or storms and plants. A few extreme or isolated groups develop fringe beliefs and practices not present in the more mainstream churches. Some espouse the belief in beast totems or reincarnation, pursue lycanthropy, or venerate spirit animals and intelligent plants. Others follow eunuch priests or start fertility or even crossbreeding cults. There are those that practice ritualized baptisms or dream quests, mushroom cults that seek communing directly with the god by ingesting strange fungi, and sects that follow diets restricted to fruits, nuts, and leaves. Despite this wide variety of radical and sometimes conflicting beliefs, members of these sects continue to receive spells from Gozreh, and the Church as a whole makes no attempt to eliminate splinter groups or force them to return to more mainstream practices, so long as they continue to foremost respect the wind and the waves and the natural world. Gozreh's temples are always open to the sky and generally contain some sort of pool or open water at their heart. Coastal temples are often just a driftwood wall with lean-tos on the side rim, while a mountain temple might have a natural amphitheater where the wind howls on a mountaintop, and a desert temple a simple oasis surrounded by a half-wild garden. Some temples incorporate water wheels, windmills, lighthouses, or other structures that respectfully harness the wind and waves and are essential to the community that relies on the sea and the sky for survival. Tending the mechanisms on the structures is a heraldry and may have remarkably advanced knowledge of the engineering necessary to maintain them, despite the Church's general preference for wildness and nature over civilization. Shrines are incredibly simple, often just a flat stone at a high elevation or a secluded beach, a large whalebone jutting from a cleft on a rocky shore, or a place where the waves crash against a crevice to create high arcing spray. Some underwater shrines surface only in years with especially low tides. A few large shrines dating back from ancient times still exist on Golarion, primarily circles or triangles of standing stones, though one circle north of the Lake of the Lindnorm Kings is composed of blocks of nigh indestructible ice rather than stones. These standing stones function as calendars, tracking solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events. Most are also burial sites for priests or particularly devout members of the faith. Priests of Gozreh look for the deity's will in swirling water, racing clouds, and the movement of flocks of birds and schools of fish. Those associated with humanoid communities serve as diviners or provide advice about fishing, the weather, or the care of domesticated birds. Some live on ships selling their services to pirates, navies, or merchants hoping to sail in fair weather and avoid deadly storms. Others dedicate themselves to healing and nurturing the wounded places in the world, or destroying the things responsible for the wounds, battling the corruption of the world wound, the deadly radiation of certain locations in Numeria, and the coastal pollution from large human cities. Some Gozrans see themselves as agents of the goddess's anger at damage wrought by civilization, sending plagues of crows, bats, and locusts to ravage cities and croplands, turning schools of fish away from seaside towns and summoning storms to drown fleets built from stolen timber. A few are explorers, determined to experience as much of the god's beauty as possible. Some good-aligned priests make their mission to visit tiny islands and rescue any travelers lost at sea. Priests usually understand about healing the body, have plenty of knowledge about nature and how to survive in it, as well as being able to diplomatize or intimidate, depending on their interests and personality. Flight and swimming are common obsessions among the priesthood, and magic items that permit flying or water-breathing are treasured. Most Gozrans avoid steel armor because it rusts, preferring wood, hide, or mithril, and some even wear armor made of hardened ice. Druids of Gozreh are often hermits, rarely seeing others-speaking creatures, and leaving their refuges only when the goddess calls or a local settlement bribes them to make rain. Most are content to live off the land, sometimes gathering treasures of the sea, such as pearls, coral, and abalone shells, or selling sea ivory or scrimshaw. Some spend their entire lives on boats. Others exile themselves to remote islands to commune with their deity. The church is decentralized, and each regional congregation tends to have periods of stability offset by sudden turmoil and reorganization, though in the long term, a charismatic and powerful priest is apt to stay at the top of the temple's organization. Within the church, a respected priest is one who reacts quickly to changing circumstance, interprets portents accurately, and is good at working with plants, animals, or both, depending on the specific focus of the temple. For Splinter churches, traits such as a sense of the spirit world or prophetic dreams may be considered more important. When a high priest dies, contenders for her rank compete in ceremonies traditional to the faithful of the region, which vary widely across the entire religion. In rugged coastal regions, claimants might dive naked from a tall ocean cliff and swim ashore, with the first to return becoming the new high priest. In river settlements and along gentler coasts, retrieving heavy stones from the ocean or riverbed is a common test. In woodland regions, hopefuls might climb as far up the forest's tallest tree as they dare and throw themselves off, and the person who falls the farthest and survives is declared the new high priest. In harsher climes, The would-be successors must make harrowing treks and brave the dangers of the elements. Those who endure prove their commitment to the faith, a more important quality than their deity's unpredictable favor. Inexperienced or overly ambitious priests have been known to die because of those contests. But in most cases, the worst anyone suffers is injuries and severe exhaustion. Among those races for whom it's feasible, male priests are expected to grow long beards, and those with patchy growth often braid or knot their facial hair into tangled masses. Female priests traditionally keep long hair, and hair that nearly reaches the ground is common. The cutting of hair and beards is not forbidden, and what constitutes long varies from region to region. Both sexes weave dried seaweed, strands of white cloth, plant fibers, feathers, and other decorative items into their hair. When an old priest dies, snippets of the long hair are cut and given to his or her successors, who tie or weave it into their own locks. Water or sky burial is typical for priests. Cremation is considered an ignoble means of disposing of a corpse. The worship of Gozreh spans all races and nationalities. Adventurers who worship Gozreh are usually hunters, sailors, or those who rely on the vagaries of sea and sky to reach their destination. Farmers often petition her as well, though they find Erastil has far more concern for their welfare than the wind and the waves. They might also devoutly appreciate nature and spend a great deal of time in the outdoors to study its beauty and understand their place in it. They're generally curt and gruff rather than expansive, for they believe in quick reactions and moving with purpose, reading the intentions of the world around them so that they might react immediately and appropriately. They know that the world is far larger than their simple perceptions, and they strive to pass through life with this knowledge held before them. They're willing to lash out at that which seems wrong, most often the despoiling of nature and its gifts. Formal raiment varies by temple, but usually includes feathers, green or blue cloth, a rope belt, and a hoodless cloak of thin, oiled leather. In coastal areas, at least one garment is usually made of kimle, a linen-like cloth made of a sea plant the church cultivates. Holy symbols are often made of driftwood, bone, coral, or twigs. Gozreh's Hymns of the Wind and the Waves is a collection of prayers and rules that provide guidance on showing respect for the natural world through personal behavior. The exact message varies by temple, as each tends to preserve only the sections relevant to local needs. Certain bardic colleges have large collections of church teachings, but no known temple bothers with all of them. Most excerpts from the text are carved on wood plaques or walls, as paper and parchment tend to mold and rot after decades in the vicinity of salt and water magic. Some temples carve sections of prayers into driftwood and cast them into the sea, where the currents carry them far away to wash up on foreign shores. A few sister temples have been trading prayers with each other in this way for generations. In addition to various regional holidays based on harvest, seasonal high and low tides, the appearance or concealment of often submerged reefs and minnows, and similar phenomena, most members of the church celebrate two common holidays.
Current Sieve, the 7th of Gozreh.
The original meaning of this holiday's name is lost in time, as it doesn't refer to any specific event relating to water or wind currents. In modern tradition, it's a day-long fast in appreciation of the first sprouting plants of the year in planting and gathering communities. or the spawning season in fishing communities. It represents the fact that feast and famine are natural cycles. By abstaining from food, worshippers redirect spiritual energy to other lives so that they may multiply their preferred food when needed.
First Bloom, the vernal equinox.
Honored primarily in farming communities, this holiday marks the start of the planting season and is typically celebrated with dances and other fertility rites. Traditionalists of the faith consider First Bloom the very start of the year, even though the common calendar starts 2 months earlier in Abydos. Followers of Gozreh are often curt and gruff, and their sayings reflect this tendency.
Drink deep, think fast.
In many ways, the Church of Gozreh is a religion from a simpler time, and some of its traditions stem from the days before civilization, when humanoid races lived in hunter-gatherer tribes. The presence of water and the ability to react to expected predators are both vital for survival, and this phrase harkens back to those times. To the faithful, this aphorism essentially means, gather your wits, be ready, and make the best of what you have.
Last grasp of the sky, dark blood of the sea.
These two oaths are reserved for the direst occasions, such as seeing an entire pack of seals slaughter for its pup's fur, or coming upon a natural spring defiled with sewage. The words come from a bleak passage, perhaps a prophecy, in Gozreh's holy writings that talks about civilized races overrunning the natural world, crushing it with their metal-shod feet, poisoning the air with the smoke of burnt forests, and tainting the seas with filth and blood of countless animals until Gozreh creates a storm that wipes the world clean so life can start again. Worshippers tend to use the version appropriate to their favorite aspect of the deity, air or water or such.
Storm and salt.
This is a common oath and used for both frivolous and calamitous events. In most temples, when a new priest joins the clergy, they swear to obey the wind and the waves, come storm and salt, drought and flood, feather and scale, until the sky or sea claims my dead flesh. Gozreh is largely indifferent to other deities unless they threaten his domain or existence. She rebukes Abadar when his farms encroach too much on the wilds, and the master of the first vault takes it as a personal affront when one of his cities suffers because of a severe weather. Gozreh hates Nethys and Rovagug for their desire to destroy the world, Gorum for the scars battles leave on the land, and Ergothoa for bringing forth unnatural, undead abominations. He is alternatively affectionate and cool with Desna, for while the sky and stars are a good match, Gozreh can be jealous of travelers' prayers to the Song of the Spheres. Gozreh is generally friendly with Erastil, for he believes that the old Deadeye fully appreciates all his aspects of nature. Informally, Gozreh considers the beasts of the earth and crops planted by humanoids to be Erastil's, while the sky, sea, fish, birds, and wild plants belong to her. Although no specific deity heads the green faith, Gozreh is on good terms with the countless nature entities who support mortals of that region as well as the eldest of the first world. As a deity concerned entirely with nature and its fundamental forces, Gozreh makes her home on the material plane, wandering ceaselessly in the form of windstorms that race across the land or waves that roll across the vast oceans. He cares little for the outer planes or the concerns of the other deities, choosing instead to listen to the song of every unfurling leaf or insect wing. While she enjoys the wilds and deplores cities, there is no particular location that holds a stronger fascination for her than others. Some scholars theorize that of all the gods, Gozreh retains the most connection to the first world because of its primal energies and wild nature. Yet, at least on the surface, the god retains the same distance as others when it comes to that plane, perhaps because he feels that even nature needs to be governed by consistent physical laws. All of Gozreh's servitors have an air or water aspect. If a creature can neither swim nor fly, she has no use for it as a supernatural minion. Few true elementals serve Gozreh, as most of their kind feel allegiance to the elemental lords, but many cloud and storm giants are native to her planar realm. In addition to his servitor race, the Zokothane, the following are well-known servitors of Gozreh and are suitable for conjuring with planar ally or similar spells.
Hargul, a unique air elemental.
This easily distracted air elemental, one of only a few serving Gozreh, looks like a dark storm cloud with flickering lightning for eyes. It is equally comfortable high in the air or deep in the sea, where it becomes a rolling mass of bubbles. It strongly dislikes dwarves, offerings of metal, and speakers who take too long to get to the point, but likes potions, especially potions of haste, exotic incense, and the fresh blood of those who despoil nature.
Graztesh, a unique giant dragonfly.
This creature resembles a giant dragonfly with icy hairs and dexterous claws that work as well as human hands. It is chatty and prone to asking inappropriate questions about mammal biology. Graztesh is immune to electricity, as is any passenger it carries, so it's frequently called upon to carry travelers in inclement weather. It enjoys eating glibbering mouthers and fat larvae from the bug-like creatures.
Personification of fury.
This strange blend of elementals serves as Gozreh's herald. Unusual in that it is one of the few elemental creatures serving the wind and the waves, personification of fury is often courted by the elemental lords to join their ranks as a high-ranking general or advisor on the mortal world. But fury dislikes the lords' squabbling and petty wars, among their kind seeing itself as a perfect example of how, in the material realm, creatures should mix together without jealousy. It remains neutral in the dealings of various planar entities, and with Gozreh's permission it sometimes acts as an intermediary between rival forces, but only in a direct, blunt, and expedient way, for it is a creature of force and action, not gentle diplomacy. Its actions have attracted a small number of sycophants and refugees from the elemental wars. Air and water elementals, tired of battle and looking for other ways to fill their immortal lives, these creatures follow fury and allow it to summon them, and in faithful servants to it they allow mortals to summon them. When the herald is on the material plane and left idle, such as before a battle or while guarding a secret place, it entertains itself by summoning dozens of small elemental minions and sending them scurrying about, letting them explore for a few minutes and get into mischief.
Saltbeard, a unique triton.
Like an old sailor, this snaggletooth, white-bearded male triton has a foul mouth, fouler breath, and the foulest of tempers. He enjoys using his magic trident to trap ships in ice, then stabbing the landlubbers who try to chip their vessels free. Hot rum is his favorite drink, although he also enjoys magic items that give him breath weapons, such as the elixir of fire breath, or cloud attacks, such as Wand of the Striking Cloud. Hello everyone. Well guys, we made it. We have finished Gozreh and therefore the Core 20. Originally after finishing these I had planned to go directly into the ethnic deities, but I have changed my mind. We are going to go into the lesser known deities first. This includes deities like Balsara, Grotius, and even Razmir. These videos will be much shorter as the lesser known deities have, well, less information with them. But don't let that discourage you. They will still be very fun to play and use in your campaigns. So, stay tuned, and as always, have a great day, God bless, and enjoy.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.